Hello. Mic check, mic check. Yeah. This is my paid fan base over here. My mother and my sister and a buddy who I grew up with. Imagine that. You know, Mr. Frank, will you grab that gentleman with the stripe thing? I don't know if this thing's ready or not.
I've already pressed record because I figure if you're going to edit it,
doesn't matter.
Or you got.
All right. Should I get started?
No, I don't do my introduction.
Oh yeah, do an introduction. You need the microphone.
I've never needed a microphone.
Stay on the stage. Yeah, I'll stand over here. How about that?
Maybe not.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
kind of heavy.
set up. Good afternoon. We are blessed to have a Blinn alumnus today as our guest speaker. Preston Moore is a graduate of Bryan High School. After high school, he attended Blinn College before transferring to Texas A&M, where he graduated with a degree in communication and business. Today, a successful businessman, he lives in Philadelphia with his wife, Sarah, and their young son, Austin. Today's talk is labeled, How to Pick Your Perfect College Major. Ladies and gentlemen, Preston Moore.
Yeah. Man, how about that introduction, Mr. Franke? He's hooked me up with a few extra credit points and some really good grades too. So thank you for that. You know, it's good to be back home. I was up this morning about 6 in the morning. I went to the Starbucks on University Drive to practice this thing. I figured there'd be at least 200 people here. But it's funny because growing up, I rebelled against everything. If you told me it was the sky was blue, I'd argue with you that it wasn't. And so I intentionally, when I left to come over here for this morning to get set up, I intentionally drove down 29th Street, and I got the radio cranked up with Kesha's new song that might be called Prayin'. It's this really great ballad. I'm in my brother-in-law's 4-door, 1-ton Ford pickup truck. I pass my mom's old hair salon on 29th and Carter Creek. I drive by Bryan High School, where I barely graduated, and I just start crying with gratitude because all I ever wanted to do was get out of Bryan College Station. All I wanted to do is get away from all the lessons and the what I felt is parental control. And here I am, 10 years, I guess probably 20 years now. I've lived in Philadelphia for the last 8, and just grateful to be here, grateful for Blinn and everything I learned here. So this is my alma mater. I was here for 4 years. Now think about that for a second. 4 years at a 2-year college. I was a stellar student. I actually went the long way around, so I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was younger, so I didn't start going to classes here until I was about 22 years old. And a friend of mine told me about the student government, which I had no clue that even existed. I held a position of Sergeant at Arms, Vice President. I was even Mr. Blinn twice, 2 years running. And you know what that means when you're Mr. Blinn twice, 2 years in a row? Absolutely nothing. It was so easy. All I had to do was write my name down on a registration slip and get about 5 people to vote for me, and I was Mr. Blinn. It was just an easy way to pad my resume. One of the cool things about Blinn, I think, is most people look at Blinn as like a pit stop. Nobody aspires to go to Blinn College at the Bryan campus. Everybody's trying to transfer somewhere else, yet there's so many great opportunities here, whether it's for a club or an organization to participate, and if someone's motivated enough to make some real change that's going to last into the future. And if anything, it's just showing participation to pad your resume to move on to a bigger 4-year college. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Blinn gave me and all the people that helped. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to pick the perfect college major, the most important lesson that I ever learned when it comes to deciding my career path, and then a number of life lessons that I've learned over the last 20 years of being out of high school. Now, here's the reality. I'm an average dude. I've never really been great at anything. I've been good at a few things, but never really excelled. I don't have a photographic memory. I'm not a stellar student. I don't read well. Sometimes my spelling is so bad, even spell check doesn't know what I'm trying to say. Which is true. I actually experienced that trying to figure out type this talk up. But I think that the fact that I went to college and graduated is an absolute miracle. When I was younger, I used to get into a lot of trouble. My senior year in high school, not only did I cheat my way through high school, in Algebra 2, the only way I passed the class on the final was I had a buddy across the classroom giving me the answers with gang signs, basically. And it was, I guess I thought I was being smart, right? Like work smarter, not harder, you know? But the other thing that's significant that happened to me in my senior year in high school is that I got arrested for a DWI. I was 17 years old. As far as I was concerned, I was just doing what college or I guess high school students do, and I was just unlucky. What I didn't understand at that time was what drug and alcohol addiction was about. I didn't understand what was going to happen to me in the next 3 years of my life. I didn't understand that not everybody ended up where I ended up. And so I remember graduating high school when I got my real estate license. I was 18 years old and I attempted to take a couple classes here at Glenn. And being that my number one goal when I enrolled here was to meet chicks, you can imagine I didn't do very well. Mr. Franke actually just reminded me of the time when I walked through his video of his Eminem karaoke music video that he was making, and I had no clue that I was even walking through the middle of his screen. But I got my real estate license. I started making really good money as a youngster, but what happened was 2 years after that arrest as a senior in high school, I got a drug possession, so I got arrested for the second time. And then a year after that, I got another DWI, and 4 months after that, I got another drug possession. Now, I remember I was 20 years old at this time, and I was sitting in the back of that police car with no padding. It's a plastic police car. My hands are cuffed behind me, and the thing that was going through my mind wasn't how big of a disappointment I might have been to my parents or how bad my criminal record was going to be. It was finally someone's going to help me with my drug and alcohol use. And the thing is that I never thought that I drank or used drugs abnormally. I never actually considered stopping. Even after that last arrest, it was more about I'm not going to make those mistakes again. I was really confused at how my life could be so together in some ways. For example, being in real estate and showing up to work every day and having a lot of interactions with professionals and business owners, and my parents and my friends really liked me. But yet in this other area, I was so dysfunctional. And so the reason why I tell you this is after that last arrest, I was forced to go to drug rehab. I went to 12-step meetings. I got a sponsor. I had a support group. I'm still very active in that community today. So I am today what you call a person in long-term recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. And what that means is I haven't used drugs or alcohol in over 16 years. And the reason that's important is because when I was younger, I didn't know anybody that I looked up to or that I thought was cool and hip that didn't drink or do drugs. The only people that I knew that didn't drink or do drugs were, let's say, a born-again Christian that was super religious or someone that was super square, which I didn't want to be either one because I was too cool for school. But nobody really shared with me about recovery or drug and alcohol addiction. So if you know somebody that's struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, or a friend or family or yourself has a challenge in that area, I will make it official that you can give my number out, you can look me up on Facebook, you can tell anybody that you need to tell that I have experience with that, because it's an absolute honor to help with people around that topic, and it actually helps me continue down my road of recovery. Now, so let me talk to you a little bit about about my time here. So when I first started at Blinn, I started with one class a semester. And I remember people making fun of me and saying, "You're going to be 30 years old before you graduate." And I said, "Yes, I'm going to be 30, but I'd prefer to be 30 with a degree instead of without." And so I started with one class a semester, and I actually went to school for a year and a half before I got one college credit. And that was because I was learning all the things I was supposed to learn in high school when I was too cool for school. But what also needed to happen for me is I didn't think I was very smart. I wasn't sure if I could go to college. And so I needed to get some experience under my belt and get a couple A's and B's to start to build my confidence. And so I went to school for a year and a half before I got one college credit. I joined the student government. And I remember this was about 3.5 years into my college career. And I remember the pressure starting to build about picking a college major, because everybody from my uncle to my advisors and my professors, everybody was saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to major in? Where are you going to go to school?" And so I felt that pressure starting to mount, because for me, I was paying as I went for school. I was working full time. I was taking every possible class you could take that would transfer to a major university. When it come to picking a major, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Did I want to pick based on how much money I want to make in the future? Do I want to pick a degree that's going to give me the best chance to get a job? Do I want to go pick a school for the prestige because I think it's going to look good on my resume? I really didn't know. So luckily, being in the student government, we got to go on trips. So we would go, I can't remember if it was Florida or New York. We went to a trip, and I remember going to this lecture, much like this, and it was about how to pick a college major. And this is what the guy said. He said, "You have an 80% chance of not working in the field you major in." So, to put this in perspective, 8 out of 10 of your friends today, in 3 to 5 years after college, they will not be working in the field that they majored in. 20%, 2 of y'all, that may be lucky enough, will not only major in something that you're interested in, but you will work in that same field forever. So this was a revelation, because I didn't understand that the discrepancy was that big. But what it did was it took the pressure off for me. I didn't feel as much pressure to go to the right school or pick the right major or take the right classes. I thought to myself, if I've got an 80% chance of not even working in the field that I majored in, what does it even matter what topic I pick or what major, or for that matter, what school do I go to? So he said, pick something that you're interested in. Pick something that you love. Pick something that you're passionate about. Because what will happen if you pick something based on what you're interested in, not only do you enjoy school, you're going to do better in your classes. You're going to make better grades. If you're picking something based on what you think you should be doing, or maybe following your parents' or advisors' advice, you might just be having to trudge through school and trudge through classes with no interest and not do as well. So let me give you some real-life examples. My wife, Sarah, she is the most beautiful, charismatic, smartest woman that I've ever met. And she even has an English accent. Now, she does have an English accent, which is 100% true, but this is being recorded, and she's going to watch this. So I got to make sure I say some nice things about her. But my wife couldn't be more opposite than me. She was extremely well educated. She was very smart. She went to a grammar school in England where you had to be in the top 2% of the entire United Kingdom to go to this school. She went to Sheffield University, which is what they call Red Brick University. It's not quite Ivy League, but maybe just a little bit below, like a Vanderbilt or Cornell, something like that. And she majored in linguistics. She started out in law, hated it, majored in linguistics. She came to America to work. She worked for Chevron briefly, hated it, came to A&M to do her master's, and she majored in comparative literature and Hispanic studies. She wanted to be a travel writer. She wanted to travel around the world, write, maybe be a professor of some sort. But the thing is that halfway through her degree plan, she realized she didn't want to be a professor. She wasn't even sure if she wanted to be a travel writer. So when we graduated college, she got a job in retail. They moved us up to Philadelphia, which we live today. And today she's a life coach. She works in personal development, working with women one-to-one to figure out what it is they want to do with the rest of their life or what makes them happy. She does online retreats and online courses. She's got 2 degrees, very well educated, but doesn't work in the field of her major. Another friend of mine, he's more than a friend, he's a relative, my cousin Barry. Now my Uncle Don, he is a Aggie through and through. He raised his children, at least his son, to go to Texas A&M. Barry was very intelligent. He skipped the 1st grade, and he graduated early. And I think when it was all said and done, I think it took him 8 years to finish his bachelor's at Texas A&M. Now, what was funny about that is I was the troublemaker, and he was the good cousin. And it still took him longer than it took for me to get out of school. But here's what's interesting about that is, by the time it was all said and done, he got a degree in turf management from the agriculture department, and he became a youth minister for a little bit. Today he's in commercial real estate, and he's a city council member. Another guy that's not working in the field that he majored in. My cousin Eva, this is a pretty good lesson. The only thing my uncle was not happy with his sweet daughter is that she went to the University of Texas. My uncle says, "How did that happen?" And she says, "Well, Dad, you spent all your time with Barry. You didn't even have anything to do with me when it came to colleges, so I figured I'd just stay home and I'd go to UT." But here's